in the realm of our soul, but the cancer of the soul is depression. What causes it? Why are there things like cancer? Well, it would be obvious for me to point out that the reason behind it is the fall, okay? Genesis chapter 3. We've got the fall of man. And man is separated from God. Man is cursed. The ground is cursed for his sake. His relationship with God has a barrier. His relationship with each other. Adam's relationship with the ground. Insofar as now thorns and thistles would be brought forth from the ground. This is the ultimate origin. The rebellion of our first parents is the cause of all the disease, all the sadness, all the sorrow, all the sickness, all the death, and yes, all of the depression in life. But let's get, if we may, a little more specific. Sometimes situations cause depression. Sometimes our circumstances can be such that there is an unlifting cloud of depression. Take, for example, if you were raised in a family where you were always criticized, never good enough. The result going into adulthood is that a lot of times there is a depression because that person feels a sense of worthlessness and that they will never measure up and therefore it is no use trying. Or maybe a circumstance hits you. Maybe it is the loss of a loved one. Perhaps the loss of a job, business failure, major financial reversal. A family member who either is rebelling or who doesn't want to speak to you anymore, or maybe moves all the way across the country. All of these circumstances as well can bring fits or can bring bouts of depression in our lives. I also don't want to overlook the fact that there is a connection, though very misunderstood, there's a connection between our body and our soul. And that much depression, we have learned, is the result of medical considerations, okay? And I'm not sure about all of the diagnosis of these things, but I do know that it's very, very real, that there can be chemical imbalances in the brain that can produce depression in the soul. And I don't never want to be perceived as denying that there is such a real thing as mental illness, and those mental illnesses include depression and even much more profound things like schizophrenia and paranoia and schizoid affective disorder and all of these sorts of things. Dissociative identity. There's a medical cause for a lot of it. And so the medical sciences do have something to offer. Oftentimes, one, albeit small, piece of the puzzle may be because of the medical considerations that are there. But I want to tell you that when it comes to the church, Christians, the people of God, when we walk through those doors, in the time that I have been privileged to serve as a pastor, and I've gone to a lot of conferences, and I've read a lot of books, and I've talked to a lot of people, I think that there are oftentimes, not intentionally, but very unhelpful responses, okay? Well-meaning Christians have sometimes said some things, believed some things, done some things that may not be, in the end, helpful to the Christian. Take, for example, what I want to call denial, all right? They say denial ain't just a river in Egypt, okay? Denial is the attitude that says, well, you shouldn't be depressed because you're a Christian. That being a Christian solves all kinds of unhappiness, and therefore, if you are depressed, there's something wrong with you. What you really need is to just get with the program, and so when you come to some places, and God deliver us from ever being this way, there's a lack of authenticity, and everyone, feels like they have to come and wear a smile pasted to their face, and they feel like they've got to give that image. It's all good, and everything is okay. It drives me nuts when I go to a church and the worship leader or the first guy comes out, and it seems like a nightclub or a rock concert, and the first thing he says is, "How y'all doing today?" Sometimes I just want to say, "Lousy," and I want to throw my Bible at him. I want you to know that that's okay. But one of the unhelpful things that we as Christians inadvertently do is we create this denial. Christians, oh, they never get depressed. And then we go and we cherry pick some verses about happiness and we use those almost as a club to beat someone because of how they feel. A second, and I think equally destructive, unhelpful response is what I want to call the quick fix, okay? The quick fix is a school of thought that says, well, all you need to do is name it and claim it. All you need to do is have one great spiritual experience. Just read this book by Dr. Winky Blinky and you will be fine. Go hear this speaker. Go check out that conference. Have this one experience and like a magic wand, it's all of a sudden going to solve all your problems. It'll make your depression go away. Some folks have even said that all depression is demonic, okay? And so what you really need is an exorcism. Wow, if it were that easy, then I would just put people through the process of exorcism, which I've had a lot of experience with, believe it or not. And then I would send people on their merry way. And whereas on the one hand, I want to affirm that yes, there is often a profoundly malevolent, demonic influence that causes depression in a person, I never want to tell a person, that's the problem, this is the fix that you need, and all you need to do is to go through this, or to name this, or to claim this, and that there is a magic wand. Sometimes we pull out of depression quickly. Sometimes God does something with our circumstances and it's almost like a light switch and the light goes on and the darkness is gone. But most often, when it comes to depression, at least it has been my observation, that is a period of time, and that is a road that we walk, and there's no such thing as a quick fix, okay? Now that may be discouraging, but I think it's actually encouraging because I want us to continue to have hope and to wait on the Lord. When David was in the insurrection that was staged by Solomon, that took a couple years of time. Okay? And so let us always remember that there are no quick fixes. There are no easy answers. Yeah, discouragement, we can pull right out of that, but oftentimes if you're lagging on and in the back of your mind you're asking yourself, well, why do I feel this way? And everybody else seems to have it together with God. And what's wrong with me? Let me assure you, there is nothing wrong with you. You are absolutely 100% normal. There is no experience that you can have other than what is common to man, and that probably there are a whole lot more people than you think who wonder in their own heart what's wrong with them. So I hope that that is a little bit of an encouragement. Well, let's look at these Psalms because I want to point us toward a cure, a life raft. If these are the Psalms of the sinking saint, I want us to throw that life raft into the water that is swallowing us up so that when we leave today, even though you might feel the same as when you came in, at least in your mind, you are directed to some scriptures that will give you some hope and perspective. So I've got 3 or 4 of them, maybe 5, that I want to point out, and they're actually in no particular order, but these are some observations that I have when it comes to how God meets us and how He ministers to us when we are depressed. The first of them I observe in the 6th verse, okay? And in verse 6 of Psalm 42, it says, I will remember you from the land of Jordan, the heights of Hermon, from Mount Mizar. Why is David giving us a geography lesson? We're depressed. We don't need geography. But I wonder if there's not a purpose here. You probably need to know that Mount Hermon was about as far away north in the land of Israel as you could get. It was also probably the highest mountain in the land. And when we continue to go through Israel, we find all the way to the land of the Jordan, the place where it all began, the place down near Jerusalem, the place where the land was first invaded and then conquered by Joshua in the wonderful book of Joshua. And so the Jordan is at sea level. It doesn't get any lower than that. And so, did you notice that the geography lesson may contain a hidden lifeline? It takes the highest place and the lowest place. It takes the farthest place and the nearest place. And it says, in those places and in those circumstances, I want to remember the Lord. Folks, I think the first lesson that we have here is that just like the geography is a metaphor or a picture for all of life, what David is asking you and asking me is something that's not too hard. He's just saying, remember the Lord, remember the Lord. And whether you are way up here on Hermon or whether you are way down here at the Jordan in life, whether you are way far away north up there or way over here where it all started, pull God into your situation just by remembering Him. Remember that in these geographic indicators, there is a comprehensiveness that teaches you and teaches me that nothing you are going through, listen now, nothing you are going through is outside the reach of the Lord. Just remember that. Just call that into mind. Go, if you would, to the third verse in Psalm 43. A couple of things here I believe are very, very interesting, but what David does is he's praying and he's asking for two things, okay? He says in 43:3, send forth your light and your truth, let them guide me. Let them bring me to your holy mountain, the place where you dwell. Then I will go to the altar of God. What's he asking for here? David is asking, first of all, for a better understanding. God, give me some light. One of the most dominant experiences with depression, in what I have felt and in what people report to me and tell me about, is confusion. They're asking why. God, why is this happening? Lord, how long is this going to go on? And I think that we can at least say, Lord, send some light. Lord, help me understand. And I believe that God will always answer that prayer. I believe God will move into our situation, maybe through people, maybe through our reading of Scripture, but however He reaches us, I think God will give some light in that darkness. Remember, in the famous Christmas passage in Isaiah chapter 9, the people who walked in darkness have seen what? A great light. The land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, those were tribes that were always getting invaded, always had problems. And that darkness is basically where Jesus had His ministry. He was Jesus of Nazareth. So no matter how dark it may be, when you ask for some light, God will not only give you understanding, but He'll give you the capital L light, namely Jesus. And so he says, Lord, I just need some understanding. I need you to break into my life. I need you to break into my circumstances. And then look at the 8th verse, back to Psalm 42. And thirdly, what David says here, by day the Lord directs His love, at night His song is with me, a prayer to the God of my life. By day the Lord directs His love, at night His song is with me. It's kind of interesting because you wouldn't expect an indicative in a psalm about how to get over depression. You'd expect an imperative. You and I might look at this and we might say, Lord, please direct your love. Lord, make the nighttime around me be a song in my life. May the